Hello friends. In this review, we will get acquainted with a very promising device, the Sonoff Ihost AIBridge Smart Home Controller. It is designed for local, I repeat, local control of devices and allows creating automations and scenarios for them. This means that its operation does not depend on internet access and cloud services. Additionally, it can work with devices from different manufacturers and ecosystems, and thanks to the support of the Matter protocol, it can integrate into existing systems such as Google Home or Apple HomeKit. I must say, covering all its features in a single video, I find impossible, especially considering that the manufacturer continues active development and releases new firmware, which come out quite often, expanding the controller's functionality. Therefore, in this video, I will introduce you to the main functions, conduct a test of connecting devices from different manufacturers, show the scenario creation constructor and interface. If you find the topic interesting, we will continue to explore the controller's capabilities in new reviews. Taking this opportunity, I extend my gratitude to the subscribers who send me their devices for reviews. Without you, there would be many videos, including this one. Before we begin, as per tradition, I ask you to like this video, as it helps promote it on YouTube, and subscribe to my channel so you don't miss new lessons and reviews. Device type, Smart Home Controller. Model, Sonoff Ihost. There are two versions, a lighter one, which is shown in this video, with 2 GB of RAM and a dual-core RV1109 processor. The older version has 4 GB of RAM and a quad-core RV1126 processor. Internal storage, eMMC 4.51, support for microSD memory cards. Interfaces, Zigbee 3.0, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, Ethernet. Supports control of Sonoff devices over a local network. eWeLink remote protocol, works with IP cameras through OnVIF and RTSP. Supports the Matter protocol, integration into Apple HomeKit, Google Home, SmartThing, and other systems. Security mode. Ability to install external containers in Docker. For this, a microSD memory card is required. The device comes in a white cardboard box, with its image on the front, the name, and the logo of the manufacturer. On one of the side faces, the model of the controller is indicated. In my case, it's the lighter version with 2 GB of RAM and a dual-core RV1109 processor. The back lists the basic parameters and capabilities about which I just spoke. The packaging is well made, with inserts on all sides that protect against damage during transport. In the box, besides the controller, there was a small instruction manual, a reset pin, a USB Type-C power cable, and a network cable. Traditionally for Sonoff, the instruction manual, despite its small size, is written in more than 10 languages, but it only covers the most basic points. The controller externally resembles some sort of gaming console, though very small. Its size is 120 x 135 x 41 mm. On the front part, there is a vertical LED indicator. On the top, there are several buttons: power, initiating the connection mode for new devices, sound, and security mode. There is also a microphone located here. On the back, vertical side, there are a reset button, a slot for a micro SD card, USB-A, a port for power connection, USB-C, and a network interface. On the bottom part, a non-slip pad is installed, on which the main parameters of the controller are duplicated. After turning on the power, the controller searches for a network. It needs to be connected with a cable. During this, the indicator lights up with red light. Once the network is found, the indicator will light up blue. The light level is low, so it won't be disturbing in a living room, in the dark. Depending on the mode, the color will change. For example, in the mode of connecting new devices, yellow. The router assigns a new IP address to the new device. In my case, it's 192.168.0.156. Now it's time to explore its basic capabilities and functionality. We go to the address provided by the router and land on the start page of the controller. At the time of filming the video, 2 interface languages are available, Chinese and English. Set your time zone and create a password for accessing the controller interface. Currently, there are 6 tabs available. The first one is intended for connecting and displaying devices. The second, Scenarios, which can be either manually initiated or triggered by an event from devices, pressing a button, detecting motion, and so on. A panel for setting up alarm modes. There are 3 of them: Home, away, and sleep mode. This is a constructor for the interface, by the way. It's quite convenient. We will look into this in more detail later in the review. A panel for installing add-ons. They are made on the same principle as in Home Assistant, as separate containers. To work with them, you need to install a micro SD card. A settings panel. Here are available the main settings, device name, password change, setting the language and time zone, and so on. Here you can also check the firmware version. Out of the box it was 1.4.2 and connect the device to your Yealink account. I'll clarify right away. This connection does not affect the local control of devices, but is necessary for firmware updates. At the moment, the controller does not find new versions. I connected the controller to my account using my email address and password. There it is in the list of devices. In Yealink I have a few, a panel with a gateway and a USB relay. For our reviewed hero here, you can only see the settings menu, and in it, we see that there is a firmware update. Let's start it. From version 1.4.2, I immediately updated to the current version at the date of testing, 1.13.0. All subsequent tests will be conducted on it. Here's the display of the current version, but now the line for connecting and disconnecting from the Yealink account has disappeared from the settings menu. I have not yet been able to find where it was moved. Now 2 new tabs have been added. Matter. Here you can connect the controller to an external system supporting this protocol. Also, a tab for pilot functions, meaning they are still in the development stage. As of the test date, there are 4 functions available here: Zigbee 2 Cube, which we will return to a bit later, Turbo Mode, which increases the signal level power for Zigbee, Yealink Remote, which allows working with devices supporting this protocol, and a function that allows connecting Bluetooth speakers. That's why I said at the beginning that covering all the capabilities within a single review won't be possible. Let's focus on the main functions and start with Zigbee devices. Sonoff Ihost is equipped with its own coordinator based on the EFR32MG21 module, similar to Zigbee dongle E. We go to the first tab and at the top right, press the button with the plus sign and choose to add a Zigbee device. Before initiating the connection mode, it's recommended to keep the device as close as possible to the controller. Up to 128 devices can be operated simultaneously, but in fact, due to routers, I think it could be more. For the tests, I prepared a dozen devices from different manufacturers and for different ecosystems. We'll check the compatibility for each of them. You can find the links to them in the description below the video. We initiate the connection mode and activate the pairing mode on the device to be connected. How exactly to do this? We look in its manual. First of all, I connected 2 Sonoff Zigbee sensors, motion and opening. As expected, there were no problems with them. This is how they appeared on the device page. The motion sensor has a new battery. The opening sensor's battery hasn't been changed for a couple of years, as can be seen by its icon. But the connection of the next device did not go as smoothly, but the developers anticipated such a scenario. The connection wizard showed a message that you can try enabling the Zigbee 2 Cube function. We've already seen it on the pilot functions page, and I promised that I would return to it. It allows the controller to work with devices that do not support Zigbee 3.0, such as the button from Acura. At the top of the page, there is a switch that activates this option. After its activation, things went better. Devices from other manufacturers and ecosystems began to connect to the controller. During this testing, I checked 10 different devices. I could have tested more, but then the review would have turned into one long test. Before we talk about them in more detail, I'll show you another available option here. This is a network map, which shows its structure and the signal quality level between its nodes. Remember, in a Zigbee network, there are 3 classes of devices: central, which is the coordinator. There is only one in a network: routers, which can transmit data for other nodes, and end devices. Now let's move on to the devices tested. Sonoff Motion Sensor, the first version, recently updated. Supported. Sends events, motion detected, no motion. Door and window opening sensor, a reed switch. Supported. Events, opened, closed. This is a leak sensor from Moz for the Tuya Smart ecosystem. Also supported. Events, leak detected, no leak. Another opening sensor, but for the Tuya Smart ecosystem. By the way, I use these with optocouplers as electricity sensors. Supported. Events, opened, closed. Round button, similar to Xiaomi, but this is a version for Tuya. Like almost all devices shown here, there are reviews on my channel. Supported. Events, single and double click, hold. Light bulb for standard E27 socket from Sonoff store. Under Tuya Smart. Supported but not fully, only white light mode, although the bulb supports color too. Round socket, adapter with energy monitoring. Also for Tuya. In Sonoff Ihost, only on and off are supported, no data on energy monitoring. Square Acra button, this is already my home or Acra home ecosystem. Supported, and like the previous button, it sends events of single and double clicks, as well as holding. Acra light bulb, this is the first version. Supported, and it indeed has only white light mode with adjustable color temperature. Unfortunately, it's now difficult to find. The link in the description is for the T1 version. I assume there won't be any problems with it. Finally, the only tested device that is not supported. This is the Acra E1 wireless switch with 2 buttons. It connected but was identified as a physical relay. There is an option to switch the state, but of course, it doesn't work. On the same tab, there is an option to add cameras. In this mode, there are 3 options: automatic scanning to detect cameras with OnVIF support, manual addition of cameras with RTSP, and ESP32 cameras. This is what camera detection looks like in the first menu. Although, in reality, I have 4 cameras supporting this protocol, but only 2 were found. Enter the login and password for access to the cameras and press the Add button. If everything is done correctly, the cameras are added to the system. For RTSP-supported cameras, manually add the line with its address and port. The login and password can be indicated either directly in it or separately in the corresponding fields. Now the device panel looks like this. In addition to Zigbee, cameras have been added. When you click on the camera panel, it starts streaming. The delay is about 1 to 2 seconds, almost in real time. Now let's look at the Matter tab. Remember, this is a universal protocol for interacting with smart home management systems. It's important to understand that Matter is logic, that is, not a physical interface like Wi-Fi or Zigbee, but specifically logic. In this case, working through Ethernet. The systems that support Matter include Amazon Alexa, Apple HomeKit, Google Home, and others. To add Sonoff Ihost to one of them, a key is needed. To display it, you need to press the button, Start Pairing. It is available in the form of a QR code for convenient scanning, but also duplicated in digits. First, I tried to add it to Apple HomeKit. The code is scanned in the standard mode of adding accessories, and the controller is identified as a bridge. However, to add such a bridge, a home center is needed. Previously, an iPad, from which these screenshots are taken, acted as my home center, but Apple removed this feature some time ago. Now the centers can only be HomePod speakers or an Apple TV box. But I have Google Home, and after I updated the firmware and the controller got Matter support, I constantly started receiving messages on my smartphone about the possibility of setting up a new device. After I pressed to scan the QR code, it suggested choosing an application, in my case, Google Home. Then I needed to accept the terms. Next, the key exchange takes place and the new device appears in the system, or rather devices, as the controller acts as a bridge. And everything connected to it that has support in Google Home also appears here. In the controller interface, a message also appears about successful addition. Then a list of supported devices is displayed. As you can see, not all are available. This is how it looks in Google Home, for example, with the opening and motion sensors, as well as the light bulb control card. Now it's time to look at the possibilities of creating scenarios. I'll say again that they will work locally, i.e., independently of internet availability. By the way, this interface also doesn't need the internet. The scenario creation constructor is quite simple. There are 2 sections, triggers, if, and actions then. A trigger can be an event generated by one of the smart devices, a set time, or a manual start. In actions, you can put the execution of a command by one of the smart devices. There is a delay, a time interval before or between actions, in control of created scenarios. Let's see how it works. In triggers, select Smart Devices, and in the menu that appears next to it will be a list of available objects. After selection, here, for example, the Acra button, another menu appears with a list of possible events. In this case, single and double click, holding. For the motion sensor, the events are motion detected and no motion. For the window and door sensor, respectively, open and closed. The leak sensor changes its status depending on whether its contacts are closed by liquid or something else or not. There can be multiple triggers, and then you need to choose a mode. The activation of any of them is sufficient, or all simultaneously. For example, A single press on the button when the light bulb is on. The timer allows you to run scenarios at a set time and days of the week, both as a one-time and on a periodic basis. The action section works similarly. When selecting devices, a menu with their list appears, and depending on what the device is, there will be actions for it. For the light bulb, this is to turn on, where you specify the brightness and color temperature, turn off, and reverse, that is, change the state to the opposite. Socket, here too, there are these three actions. Only for turning on there are no additional parameters. Actions can also use the controller. For example, to activate the sound alarm when a leak is detected. The very bottom option is the duration of the scenario's action. By default, it works constantly, but if necessary, you can set a time interval, as well as days of the week in which it will be executed. Here's another example. On a double press of the button, the Tuya light bulb turns on, at full brightness with neutral light. Then there is a 10-second delay, after which the light bulb turns off. If you set manual start in triggers, then such a scenario can be executed by pressing its button in the interface, or if called from another automation. This one will turn on the light bulb with a set brightness and color temperature. This is how it looks in the interface. I created another scenario with manual start, turning off the light bulb. When pressing the execute button, the system will sequentially perform all the actions described in the scenario, and there can be many such actions, for example, turning off or on all the light bulbs in the house. I'll tell you about another way of using scenarios with manual start. As I said, they can be triggered from other automations. Why might this be useful? For example, you want to turn on and off a light bulb with a single button press, but at the same time, it should turn on with a strictly set brightness and color temperature, for example, at full brightness during the day and at a low level at night. If you try to make such a scenario directly, with two triggers that must be met simultaneously, one, button press, the other, light bulb off, then you won't find it in the actions. Presumably, this is done to avoid recursive scenarios. But you can do it like this. Two triggers, button press and light bulb state off, need to be met simultaneously. The action, execution of a scenario with manual start, which turns on our light bulb with the set temperature and brightness. Make your version for all time intervals. For turning off, one scenario is enough. Pressing the button with the light bulb on. Here it doesn't matter what brightness is set. In this case, the scenario with manual start is executed, which turns it off. I'll say a few words about the security mode. There are 3 different modes, each with its own settings. In them, it is determined which sensors will lead to the activation of the alarm. For example, in sleep mode, it will be only the entrance door sensor, and in away mode, you can add motion sensors. Also, the type, volume, and duration of the sound signal are set. There are 5 types of sounds for the alarm, as many as there are for the doorbell and alarm clock. After the alarm is activated, the controller starts monitoring changes in the sensors, which are triggers for the set mode. Let's also consider creating a user interface. The U-Link Cast tab is responsible for this. Press the button with the plus sign. This launches the wizard for creating a new custom interface page. Each of the pages has 2 display options for monitors and tablets. And for phones, with the corresponding aspect ratio, the objects are common to both, but their placement may differ. On the left, there are several tabs. The first is Devices. Mark those you want to see on this page. On the page layout on the right, arrange them in the desired order. The page's name is set there as well, the topmost line on the left. Switch to the tablet display, where the objects we added will already be there, but their placement can be changed differently. On the second tab, the manually triggered scenarios we created will be available, which can also be displayed in the interface. This is convenient for launching several actions or, for example, turning on lighting with preset parameters. Customize the tablet display for yourself. The scenarios are already added. Drag them with the mouse so that it's convenient to launch them. The third tab is Graphs, but in my case, there are no such devices yet. These could be energy monitors or temperature and humidity sensors. On the settings page, you can choose widgets. There are 4: alarm, clock, calendar, and label. Set the background color and pin code. Choose everything you need and place it on the page layout. For tablet display, all options selected in phone mode will already be marked. You only need to adjust the placement. Save. After that, the page we created appears on the tab. There is also an address, ihost.local/cast, where this interface will be accessible. Go to this link. This is how it looks in phone mode. On the main screen, a list of pages. We have only made one so far. By clicking on its panel, we go to this page and see all the added objects. You can see their status, watch videos from the camera, and so on. And this is how the main page appears in tablet display. More precisely, this screenshot is taken from a laptop monitor. The objects are the same, but the arrangement is what we configured for this display. The current status of the window and door sensor, it is now open, and now closed. Everything is in real time. Let's create another page. On it, I added both light bulbs and the socket, as well as enabled all widgets. And for this display, I arranged everything in this way. Now on the main screen, 2 pages. Choose the one you need. If you set a PIN code in the settings, it will need to be entered to access it. Widgets are quite convenient. I think more useful features will be added over time. This is what controlling the light bulb looks like, somewhat reminiscent of Apple HomeKit. And this is the view in phone display mode. In this way, we create as many pages as needed for comfortable operation. If necessary, protect all or some with a PIN code. As you can see, there's a lot of information, and I haven't even gotten to the add-ons yet, where there's also a lot of interesting stuff, like local control of Sonoff Wi-Fi devices or even installing Home Assistant Core. It's impossible to fit all of this into one review, so if you're interested in the topic and want more, please write in the comments. My personal impression of the controller is positive. The idea itself is promising, and its future depends on how it will be developed. There are still some issues related to device support and their operation, and I hope that updates will continue to be released on a regular basis. That's all for now. I hope the video was useful and interesting to you, and I would appreciate your likes. They help with promotion on YouTube. If you don't want to miss new reviews and lessons, subscribe to my channel. In the description under the video, you'll find links to stores where you can buy the controller, to devices that were tested with it, and also to my Telegram channel, Facebook page, and a group for discussing smart home topics. Join us. It will be interesting. Thank you for your attention. Until next time, peace to all.